So you might be wondering, what is a figure? Sometimes people are talking about figures and they mean a photograph. Sometimes it's a chart. And really, you will find all of the information you need about tables and figures in Chapter 7 of the publication manual. And both tables and figures are um, are there to help the reader understand your work and maybe understand some complex data in a clearer, easier to understand way. Um, Tables show numerical values in columns and rows. And basically, all other visual representations of data are considered figures. So charts, graphs, photographs, drawings, infographics, all of that is considered a figure, and that's what we're talking about today. So next slide, please. And if you've gone to an APA style webinar or been on our website or something like that in the last several years, you might be familiar with the 3 pillars of APA style, which are precision, clarity, and inclusion. So whenever we are thinking about APA style guidelines, we come back to how do we promote communication that is precise, clear, and inclusive. And those same guidelines work really well for figures as well. So when you're creating your figures, you want to make sure that they are clear. So the image itself is clear, the font is legible, it's easy to understand, and a figure has to be clear enough that if somebody sees that figure outside of your paper, it should stand alone and it should be able to be understood even if the reader isn't reading your paper. A figure should also be precise. It's going to present specific data for a specific purpose. It's going to include only the necessary information, and it's going to really be essential information, not decoration. So even if a photograph might look pretty in a certain page, a figure should be essential to the information you're trying to provide. And figures should be inclusive. So it should be legible and accessible to all readers. And Chelsea's going to go into that in more detail a little bit later on. Next slide. One thing that we have a lot of questions about is where exactly do you put your figures and how does that relate to the text? It's very important that every figure that's included in your paper is called out in the text. And you call out the figure with the figure number. So you might say, see figure 1, figure 2 shows blank is shown in figure 3. And it's important to tell the reader what to look for in the figure. So it should have that specific purpose that you're telling them to consult the figure for. And there are 2 options for where you're going to put your figure. The first is that you can embed the figure in the text after you mention it or call it out, or you could choose to place the figure on a separate page after the reference list. And, it's up to you which one you prefer and what makes the most sense for your paper, but those are your 2 options. Next page. So you might be doing a figure outside of a research paper. And when you're doing something like a poster or something like that, the same principles apply. However, it's not just, a bigger version of the figure that is in your research paper. You want to make sure that you are even clearer. So we've all gone to conferences and gone to the poster section. And I think for a lot of us, you might not be reading all of the text. You're going to look at the figure. And that's what you want to be able to understand what the person is communicating through the figure. It's important to make everything bigger. You want to stand out in that poster session, avoid dense text and small labels. You want to keep the colors high contrast, which again, Chelsea will talk about later. And you can use templates to design for accessibility and things like virtual conferences. So on the image on your screen is actually from APA's convention. That's their recommendation and template for how to create a poster. So I'll send that link to you in the chat. So next page. So now Jasmine's going to talk about the basics of figure set.